Hey everyone, how we doing? I'm down the boat. I'm just doing a bit of admin, and I thought it'd be a good chance to sit there and talk about the lures I use. Now, before I go into that, I'm gonna just say a couple of bits. Firstly, if you're old hat, if you've been around a while, what I'm gonna teach you today, other than what I use, as in my personal preference, you're not gonna learn anything. But you might find it interesting, so thanks for watching if you do stick around. And if you're a beginner, one thing I will say is lures are probably one of the most personal things you'll get in fishing. Everyone's got their favourites, everyone's got their brands that they like and brands that they don't like for various reasons. Ultimately it comes down to they used a lure once or twice before and they caught a fish. Normally it's when they've been using other lures, going wrecking all day, they change lures and they get a fish first drop, and that's it. It becomes because of the reason they changed their lure, that's the lure that works. All the others were no good, and then you'll find that they will stick with that forever, won't use the other lures again to give them a chance, and then that'll be it. That lure is the one, that's the killer lure. So firstly, lures catch more anglers than fish more often than not, but like I said, everyone's got their own preferences. Today is going to be mine. It's not the way, it's just a way, as with anything I show you, but that's it. Second thing is, I'm not affiliated with any tackle companies. I am sponsored by Simpson Marine, but they stock a whole range of stuff, so I'm not giving you recommendations for a personal gain, or I'm getting something from it, or someone's paid me to do it. I'm showing you because this is what I've used down the years, and it's what I like, and it's what catches. And those that have been following the channel have seen that we do catch fish, and we have some nice ones, so I'm just going to show you how, when and why, and what I use. So that's what today's about, so let's get into it. Right, so the trace line, the leader as it's known, trace line, leader line, whatever you call it down your end, hook length, whatever you want to call it. Fluorocarbon for me, I've tried Amnesia, I don't like it, it's too soft and it's got a lot of stretch in it, and I've just found it's got more breakage. I know a lot of people prefer Amnesia over fluorocarbon and vice versa, and Dino, who fishes with me a lot, he uses Amnesia, but for me, fluorocarbon all the way. Two types of fluorocarbon, or two brands that I use, and again it's just because I've used them, they work and I trust them. First one is Trilene Big Game, and that's in £30. Now there's a fascination with going really light when people are wrecking and stuff like that, and they go, yeah, but then fish don't see it as much and whatever. Fluorocarbon, the whole point of fluorocarbon is designed to be invisible in the water, so whether it's 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 pounds, it's meant to be invisible. So if that's your belief, it doesn't matter what strength you're using. I've tried 20, I used to use 20 turbiting and wrecking, and what happens is when you tie knots with it, a knot, especially if you're rushing, going round on a drift or whatever, a knot will weaken your line, so a 20-pound fluorocarbon might become 18, 15 pound. Even if you lube the line up, it's going to make a weak point. And then if you do nick a wreck, a slightly thicker line just gives you that bit of extra chance to come in. I've just changed the leader over on one of my bass trips now because we was in a bit of rocky ground and it had chafed out a little bit, and some of the nicks were quite substantial. Had it been £20, I think we would have parted off on a fish. So for that reason, £30. The other brand that I use, and it is a lot more expensive than this, is Seagar. You get less line for double the money, but it is a bit like the Rolls Royce of fishing lines. But to be honest with you, the Trilene Big Game in £30, absolutely brilliant all-round fluorocarbon line. And I'll put a link into both of those in the description for Amazon if you can't find it locally. But yeah, brilliant fluorocarbon. Right, so the first lot of lures I'm going to show you is for when you're using a boom with your weight on and a shad or red gill, whatever you're going to use, or sidewinder, you know. So that's the boom I use. I think it's a 12-inch boom. It's quite solid, and then you clip your weight on to the bottom bit of the boom. Obviously clip swivel from your main line, so you can just clip on, clip off, and then at the other end of the boom you're tying a length of fluorocarbon 6 to 8 foot, and then that will go to your lure of choice. And then all you do with that is drop it down to the bottom, up and down X amount of turns. Depending on the size of the wreck or the mark or the reef I'm fishing, the number of turns up will vary, and it should vary as well with each mark. It shouldn't be a set 10, 20, 30, 40 turns. It should vary with the mark you're fishing, and then that's going to end in whatever lure you're using. This is a sidewinder, super slim in cotton candy, I think they call it, or candy king, something like that. And then that's just tied with whatever knot of choice. Now I'm not going to sit there and teach you what knots and how to tie them, because fishermen, you know, you grown men, everyone has their own knots. I just use, for probably 90% of my fishing, it's a clinch knot, which is the seven or eight turns, tuck it back through the loop, pull it tight. If you want to improve that, you tuck it back in through the top loop, but essentially that's what it looks like there. Trim the tag end off. It's not imperative. On some rigs I like to leave a bit of a tag end because it gives you a bit of slippage, but some people, mainly people who do carp fishing who then come to sea fishing, they try and make everything really neat, and I don't think that's needed. Length of fluorocarbon, like I said, 6 to 8 foot. I don't keep it any longer than that. The reason being is because if I'm on my own, or even if I'm not, as my boom is hitting the top of my eye and it can't go any further, if it's ridiculous length, you can't net the fish without having to put your rod down and hand line it into the net. Now, I don't like doing that, and the reason being is it gives the fish another chance to get away. As soon as that fish is popping, I'm out with a net. That's my own personal preference. I know there's people that'll have a 15-foot trace. If you're fishing in deeper water, sort of 200 odd foot for pollock and stuff, it's not so much of a drama, because when they get to the top they've blown, and they just tend to sort of lay there at the top and float, so you can just pull them in. But like in one of the turbot videos that I've shown, pollock, once you've hooked them, the hole where the hook's gone through actually winds up being quite big. I've got a picture of it and I'll put it in here, and there's a few other channels. David Mordecai, Maud's Fishing, he demonstrated this the other week on one of his videos, and yeah, if you give it a bit of slack line, that hook can fall out. So that's why I keep it fairly short, but again, that's just personal preference. Now then, coming on to the lures themselves, if I'm using boom and shad, there's only a couple of types of lures that I will use on them, because I trust them, I've used them, and they work. And the hook quality is good, and the lure quality is good. It's not too soft, it's not too hard, and it's got a great action. Now, the two brands that I use predominantly, there may be odd occasions where I've got a cheaper one in the bag, or I've just picked something up from the garage I've got from years ago. But that's Sidewinder, and that is Redgill. So two main brands that I use. Sidewinder was the original, Redgill came along, started making their own, and I'm a big fan of Sidewinder lures, but on its day a Redgill will fish as well really well, and that's why I use them. And if I just go over to here to what I've got, let's look at the Sidewinders first. Now, these are the Skerries eels. These are the newer ones, these are the super slims. We've had a good session on the pollock on these ones in the blacks, and then we go over to the other Skerries, and these are slightly thicker, and that's in cotton candy, different colours. But there you go, the hooks on these are razor sharp. If you do hook up, just check your hooks, because either the point goes or they can bend out. But these are absolute killers, these ones. I'm a big fan of these. Now, a lot of people will fish a smaller one, so they will use something like this. And again, we've got a Redgill and a Sidewinder for comparison. They use a smaller lure. This is the 4-inch, this is the 6, so it is quite a difference. Now, some people will swear by this one, and I swear by these ones, just because it's personal preference. There's no right or wrong. There is a day where they want something smaller, especially if there's a lot of fry in the water. Bass shore anglers, we get a big term going around, match the hatch. It's no different out there. It's no good giving them something small or jumbo, a 12-inch lure of some description, if the thing on the ground that they're feeding on is little tiny white bait and fry. So don't be scared to change the sizes of your lures. The reason I like a 6-inch lure is because, one, it's got a bigger meatier hook on it, so I think it's got less chance of bending out, and that has proven the case down the years for me. I have had some bigger fish on the smaller ones and the hook's bent out, and I just got a bit more faith in the 6. And the other thing is, I find this weeds out the pout a bit more. The hook is actually in the final third of the lure, so with the pout, unless it's the big granddaddy pout, they tend to get the tails and let go, and I can carry on putting the lure through the ground or the wreck. With the smaller one, it's literally, it's got more chance for the little baby pout to get in their mouths. So some of these wrecks, they're absolutely loaded with pout. I just tend to try and find that this weeds them out a bit more, and that's just personal preference again. So, right, coming on to the Redgills. These are probably the first lures I ever used when I started learning to boat fish through some friends of mine. And these are the ones that we use, and I think it's probably for that reason that I've stuck with them. Slightly longer, thinner. They're thinner actually than, well, actually no, they're about the same as the super fins on the Sidewinders. Very similar design. The hook though is about halfway down, so it's a bit further back the hook, but again, they're really good hooks. And they all come in a variety of different colours. I mean, these ones here are called Firetails. Because they have generally a black body, and then they have a bright coloured tail. And I really, really like those. The one thing I will like about these Redgills is the colour schemes are really, really good. And the fire tails, I mean, I knock it out of the park some days with these. Blues, I like blues for bass. I think a blue Redgill for bass is really, really good. Likewise with the sidewinders, again, the colours is probably in my head, but I do find some colours pick up more fish than others. But that's just it. But they are really, really soft. After a few hits though, I do find these are a bit more delicate than the sidewinders, so you find yourself having to change these a bit more than the other ones. But they are absolutely first class lures, and the tail action on these in the water, and you can see it on the camera now, I can see it looking at myself, the tail action is really, really good. But yeah, sidewinders and Redgills, that's my go-to for a booming shad setup. Right, touching on colours. Now, colours are individual. You know, like I said, it's each to their own, and someone will be fishing all day, not catch something, change their lure to a different colour, drop down and bang, they get a fish, and that's it, it's because of the colour. However, there is a big difference some days in a dark colour and a light colour, and I've got both of them here just because I'm being fair, sidewinders and the Redgills. Now, on a dark overcast day, so gloomy, it doesn't matter about the sea state, but a nice gloomy overcast day, a black lure can do really, really, really well. It creates a better silhouette. When the fish are looking up, more often than not, they're not seeing the colours. What people don't understand is as you get into deep water, the colour spectrum for a fish changes. So what looks like bright white and pink and reds to us, 200 foot down, just doesn't look like that at all. It starts blurring out, and so what you think is a bright pink lure that's working, the fish will be seeing a different colour. I'm not a scientist, but I know that's true. Go and look it up if you don't want to believe me off the cuff. But there is a substantial difference in the silhouette that a light lure and a black lure creates. On some days they just want a light lure. The bloodheads are really good for cod, you know, reds and whites, and other times it's a black one. Fished with Jake mussel fishing Pollack in the other week, and it was just bang, bang, bang on the blacks. Bassing the other day, they just wanted a bright white sidewinder Skerry's eel. Wouldn't touch anything else. Chatting with a few of the other commercial boys, they had some pinks and some blacks on and stuff, and weren't getting half as many as the guys on white. So it is a colour thing. Whether or not it's the actual colours that we see is the difference, but I think more, depending on the conditions, it's what the fish see. So if you've got a top tip, if you've got a couple of people on the boat fishing, don't all go on the same lure, mix it up a little bit for the benefit of the boat, especially if you're on a charter boat. Chat with the guys around you. What colour are you on? What colour are you on? Right, I'm going to go this then and see if it works. And see if there's a distinct difference in what is catching. Because the only difference in what's going to catch more fish is either the skill of the angler or the lure you got on. So don't be scared to mix it up and work with the people around you, friends or not, to find out which one is the best. Okay, sticking with the booming shads then, the other type of lures that I use, I think these are a brand called Tsunami, I'm not sure, I've had them for a while, but these are a slightly dumpier lure. They're fatter and they're not quite as long, but these on their day, they've got a lovely big paddle tail on them. These on their day will also outfish. Again, all the colours you can dream of, just makes you buy more, so you've got all the different varieties, make you think that they're working better than the other ones. But yeah, blues, pinks, oranges, blacks, firetails, oranges. But on a day, they just want something a bit meatier. The other ones are like, they tend to be thin. These ones here, they got a bit more meat. Don't know whether it's just because they catch the eye or the paddle tail creates more vibration, I don't know. But on their day, they can work really, really well. Now the other one, and I've covered it before in another video, and it is a very specific lure. Some people would just clip this one on and fish it like normal, and it will still catch, because if it goes past the fish, they'll have it. But this is what they call a twin tail, and again, this is a Redgill, and I haven't bought too many of them because I don't do that much of it unless I'm cod fishing. But a twin tail is flat on the bottom, round at the top, and it's flat on the bottom because it's designed to hop along. So the way you fish it, a nice stiff rod, and instead of an 8-10 foot trace, 6-8 foot trace, whatever you're fishing, you fish a 2 foot trace and you literally hop it along down the side of the wrecks. If you're going over the wrecks and you're asking for trouble with these, but drifted down the side, hard on the deck, little flicks with a rod tip. That is a cod killer. Absolutely brilliant. You're going to pick up those cod that are hard down there on the deck. Pollock will tend to be higher on a wreck, same as bass. They do swim around it, but generally they're sitting above it. Cod, they can be hard on the deck. So if all else fails, if nothing else is happening on a wreck, but you think, do you know what, let's have one last chance saloon, one last thing to try, a twin tail on a Portland rig maybe, so or a three-way swivel potentially, something like that. Hop it along the bottom, that can get you fish when nothing else is. So the other type of lure fishing that we do on the boat is fish direct. So we fish a lot lighter rods. Normally when I'm wrecking with the boom and shad, it's a 12-20 setup and then braided reel. If I'm going to go direct, I use my 20-60 gram Akuma Helios. Absolutely lovely rods. I'm sold on those. They're absolutely brilliant. Penn Battle 2 reel, or Battle 3 now as I've got, £30 braid. And then a length of fluorocarbon leader, trilene, Seagar, £30, about 8 foot long. And that's joined on with an Albright knot, or a knot of choice, braid to leader knot. Then the two types of lures I use. First one I'm going to show you is the Storm GT lures. Now they come in various different sizes. They do come with a spare body, but the spare body never gets used unless you've got a lead head. I don't understand why companies make these lures and then put a spare body in there with no head, because you lose the lure, you lose the head anyway, and you're left with a body you can't do nothing with. So either way, that's just my little rant on those. But these are absolutely brilliant. I love these, especially out in the deeper water. Use these bigger ones, 111 gram, mullet and mackerel. Absolutely brilliant in the summer for bass. They are expensive. They're about, I mean, this is 18 quid a lure, that one. So be wary of that if you get them in the wrecks. But they are absolutely brilliant. They've got a really, really good action. They hook up. The smaller sizes as well, weedless. Inshore, that's a 35 gram, I think. Inshore, absolutely deadly for bass. I love them in white, mackerel, mullet, all that sort of stuff. But really, really good lures. You can use these as the bottom weight when you're squid jigging as well, and it will pick you up your cod and bass. But they are absolutely first class. Little paddle tail on the end, big leadhead in the front, and a weedless hook. Sold on these as well, won't deviate from these now. I've tried a few others. I've tried the Savage gears. I've tried the other lead heads with bits and bobs in, but these here, they just do the business every time I use them now. So going back to what I've said previously, that's what works for me, that's what I do. But they're absolutely brilliant, because you can just, as the tide picks up or drops off, just scale down your sizes. If you're wreck fishing with them and you get them back, then you're laughing. But if you're reef fishing, there's no reason why you should be losing these. And all we do is clip them on and change your sizes. But absolutely lovely action in the water as well. And it's not just bass that will take these, cod, pollock. We've had it all with these ones, so absolutely brilliant. All right, and finally the last setup I use if I'm fishing direct is slow jigs. Now there's loads of different varieties out there, different makes, models, colours, all the lot of it. Essentially they're just a lump of metal with some hooks in the top. I've started off using H2O and I just haven't really gone back really, but there's a number of brands out there that do them, and it's just a lump of metal with some hooks in the top. Now not a traditional lure, the hooks aren't on the bottom of this, although it does have a hooking point to do that if you want to, and they just come in a variety of different colours and sizes. So much like the other ones, all you got to do is just change your sizes depending on what you're fishing for. Top tip, people always hook these up wrong. Firstly they hook them at the bottom, sorry at the top, sorry, no that's right, at the bottom of the lure with the hooks facing down, thinking that's how they're meant to sit. It's not. The hooks are designed to be sat upright, and all you do is lift it, sharp lift up, down, and that just flutters through the water, and that's when they hit it, and they go absolutely wild for this. It's one of the lures that I like working over slack water. It's either the twin tail that I showed you earlier or a slow jig. Other than that, you generally need a bit of tide for luring. There are exceptions, as you saw in one of my Pollack videos the other week, but these are absolutely brilliant and they do catch fish, and we had some lovely bass on these the other day. Again, you can scale it right down to the small ones. This is literally only I think 15 grams or something like that. In the winter they're really good for whiting. Yes, you can lure fish for whiting and other species, gurnards, black bream. You can scale these right down to whatever size you can get away with. One thing to be aware is that they're on with a split ring. So you've got the main loop of the head, the solid loop, and then the assist hooks, which is what these are, they hang down. Now, when you connect the line up, don't connect it to the split ring. So I'll try and show you on the camera. So you've got the loop there where the hooks are attached to with a bit of, it's basically like thick cotton basically, or thick braided line. And then you've got a split ring that attaches to the lure itself. Don't attach it onto that, because what that will do is pull your hooks up and it makes them go stiff and you'll miss bites. Attach your swivel to the fixed point of the lure, and that way then your hooks are free to dangle down. They're not affected by your line, because you've got to think every time you're jigging, if you're attached onto one of these rings, every time you're jigging you're lifting your hooks up like that. You want it on the fixed point, so as it's going up and down, the hooks aren't affected. And as a fish comes up, hits it from the back, the hooks are facing up, they're grabbed, and then that's it, it's on. What I will say is just check the sharpness of your hooks. I haven't got one to hand here, I've got 2 of them somewhere, but a little hook sharpener, they cost a couple of quid. When you're fishing with your lures of any sort, every now and then just put your thumb on the points and just make sure that it should be sharp, goes without saying. But if you start snagging into wrecks and rocks, people just look at your lure and they go, oh yeah, the lure's still there, that's fine. But it's the hook that catches you the fish. Just get your hook sharpener, give it a quick blitz on the thing, get the point back to a sharp edge, and then go again. Do that regularly. It's a little top tip there, a little hook sharpener, it's a couple of quid. Have it out there on the deck, or if you're a skipper, have it in the wheelhouse, just so you can come out and just freshen those hooks up. But yeah, HTO, various different sizes, various different brands. It's a lump of metal hooks in it, but slow jigs work really, really well, fish direct. There we go, quick little chat about my lures. Like I said at the start, I can't stress enough, they are a really personal thing, lures. Someone will swear and try and push you down one direction. My advice is go with what you know, go with what you feel confident in, because ultimately if you're confident in something, you will fish it harder, you'll fish it more, you'll fish it better, and you won't be tempted just to change it out. Fish with what you want to fish with, let everyone else fish with what they want to fish with, and then that's it. And if you catch, like I said, recapping some top tips, change your colours up between you if you're fishing with a few of you, see what's catching, change your styles up. Is it a paddle tail? Is it a thin redgill? Is it a thin sidewinder scaries? Is it a slow jig? Is it a storm GT? Is it whatever you're using? Work out what they want, work out what colours, and then you can really load up, because it can make a difference. Check your fluorocarbon leaders for nicks, abrasions, stuff like that. Don't be scared to change it out, because we had it the other day. One of the anglers didn't check his knots properly and it was highlighted to him, got a bass on, snapped off within 10-15 seconds into the fight. So do your diligence, make sure you check your gear over like I've just done now, change your leaders out, have faith in what you're doing, and you'll catch a boatload of fish.